Hello, my name is Asha Oya, and I am the founder and coach of Law of Asha Coaching. And the reason that you're here today is because you want to know why you can't get out of the depression anxiety cycle. Maybe you struggle with depression or anxiety for years or since your childhood, or maybe this is a recent development for you, but you've tried everything and you can't seem to stop your depression or anxiety from coming back. So I'm going to be talking to you about the reasons why that's happening and also talk a little bit about my personal experience with that. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and set some very simple and short ground rules for this quick and easy training. First off, it's important to recognize that this is actually an opportunity for you to change your life. And so seeing it as such, one, avoid distractions. If you can find a moment or find some time to just get away from, if you're at work, get away from your desk. If you're around your family, maybe go in another room. If you're with friends, maybe step outside. If there's a lot of noise, maybe put on some headphones. Do what you can to try to minimize distractions. That way you can really get the most out of this. Two, take notes. If you have a journal, go ahead and pull that puppy out. If you take notes on your phone, you can go ahead and do that as well. Just ensuring that if something lights up inside of you, if you get excited, you definitely want to take note of that because that's going to be critical for you changing your life and growing. Three, reflect on your notes and on this video after you watch it. Reflection on things that really struck a chord with you are going to be essential towards you really putting yourself in the mind frame of getting better. I am changing. I am growing. I am open to the information that will support and help me. That sort of mindset. So we're going to start that now. Okay, a little bit about me. My name is Asha. I am a law of attraction expert and a mindset coach. So for a little bit about my history, my past, so I struggle with depression and anxiety since childhood. And for 28 years of my life, I tried every single thing that I could to try to get over my depression and anxiety, to cure myself of it. I went to years of therapy. I tried medication. I've tried a host of alternative therapies like energy work and acupuncture and spiritual readings and consultations. And really nothing worked permanently. Nothing worked for sure. Everything I tried was always temporary. And so I got to a point where I was just really frustrated because I really had thought I had gotten past these issues. And then I realized one day, oh, I'm depressed again. How did this happen? What did I do? What am I doing wrong? I thought this was gone, but it was back again. And so one day, literally, it was a moment and it was like an epiphany, like the largest epiphany I think I've ever had in my life. I had that epiphany and I knew that I figured it out. And at that moment, everything changed for me. Everything began to improve. And I haven't been depressed or anxious since. And so I'm going to talk to you again about how you can get out of this cycle and begin to make that shift and transition to a life that's more joyful, a life that's more satisfying, a life where you don't have to wake up and worry, oh no, am I going to be depressed again today? Or, oh no, will my anxiety get to me? You don't have to live that way. Okay, so the first reason why you're having trouble getting out of the cycle is that you are a problem solver. You have probably been told and heard from people in the professional world and in school and in college or university and a variety of fields and situations that is important, and it's good to be a problem solver. And you probably find that you take this approach to your mental health or your self-help, that you are trying to solve your problem of your depression or your anxiety or your mindset or your confidence or whatever it is that you want to get better. And naturally, when we problem solve, we keep digging to try to understand, make sure we really understand what the root of the problem is. And when you focus on something, you get more of that. And so the more you try to solve the problem by trying to figure out what the problem is, the more problems you find. And the more you keep finding yourself in the situation of the problem. And you might not even be correct about what the problem actually is. You might think it's one thing, it could be another. Your health professional might say it's one thing, but that might not be it. Your therapist might say another thing, that might not be it. Your mom might say one thing, your boss might say one thing, your best friend might say another thing, your partner, your spouse might say another thing. Everyone has a story or their own little spin or reason as to what the problem might actually be, but none of that's actually helpful to you. I personally tried this approach to self-help for years, and my results were always temporary, or they just didn't work at all, and it was really frustrating. So if you are trying to solve the problem of your mental health, if you're trying to fix it and get to the root of it, that's not the way. Okay, now the second thing that you might be doing is you might be trying to cover up the problem, cover up your issues. You might feel ashamed or afraid to ask for help, so you try to minimize it. You try to avoid conversations about it or situations where it might come up. People might ask you about it and you feel these emotions and then you just swallow them. You just swallow them down. Or you create these walls, you try to build these walls around you so that no one can get in. Maybe you are actually maybe more of an extroverted person, but because you're trying to hide these issues, you come across as introverted. Or maybe you're more of an introverted person, but you try to become extroverted and create all of this distraction to try to pull people's attention or eyes away from what the problem is or what the issue is. And honestly, that doesn't really work. Other people can see, they can sense when something's wrong, and it might be plain as day, and you might be thinking you're doing a good job of covering it up, but I can guarantee you that there are people that know. People like me that are empathic, that are intuitive, that just are good at reading people, are good at understanding people. And I can see and I can sense when something's off. Now, the result of trying to cover up your issues might be that you're okay for some time, and then you have random explosions of anxiety or deep dives into depression. I've definitely experienced that. For most of my life, I yo-yoed between being happy, being well-adjusted, being successful, and then being anxious, having panic attacks, and then being really depressed, and then somehow finding my way back to feeling normal again, and then trying to take advantage of that time because my thought was, well, I don't know when I'll be depressed again, so I better really live life right now before it comes back. And that's not a way that you want to live. I lived that way until I figured it out. So by repressing your feelings and hiding your issues, what is actually happening is it's not just you're trying to cover it up, right? Because some people will be like, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with covering up your issues is that you don't actually allow yourself to grow or evolve. You're not actually shifting that energy. You're not actually changing those beliefs or thoughts that you're trying to cover up. You're not actually transforming. In essence, you're creating a state of stagnancy. Now, the third reason why you might be experiencing this cycle of being well and then being unwell, of being confident and then being insecure and what have you, is you don't believe it's possible to be cured. Maybe you don't believe it's possible to not have anxiety, or you don't believe it's not possible to be depression free, or you don't believe it's not possible to be confident all the time. Or maybe you don't believe that it's possible to feel empowered all the time, or to feel worthy all the time, or to feel beautiful all the time, or to feel strong and capable all the time. Maybe you don't believe that it's possible to be who you really are all of the time. We all have stories or beliefs about every single aspect of ourselves and the world. And it's important to think about whether the beliefs that you have are based in fear or based in love. You might have taken on beliefs from the medical field, from people who people who know you, maybe family members who say, well, there's no cure for mental illness, or this is sort of a lifelong thing and you'll need to take this medication forever until you die. Or you'll need to go to therapy for probably the rest of your life, or you'll need to do this or that to cope with this thing that we don't have a cure for. Or maybe, family members have experienced this and they don't think it's possible to be cured because they say, well, so-and-so had it and so-and-so had it and they died with it. Or I've had it since I was this years old and I still have it. And they're like, well, I don't want you to get your hopes up because I don't know anyone that's gotten cured or overcome this or what have you. All of those are just stories. Stories create your reality. Every single story can be changed, no exceptions. I've changed my stories. And so if I can change mine, then you can change yours. The final reason why you might find yourself going through yo-yos of depression and anxiety, going through up and downs with your emotions and your mindset and your mental health. You identify with your illness. You might say things like, well, I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I have depression. I struggle with anxiety. Depression runs in my family. I've been diagnosed with anxiety. Those statements, you've probably said one of those statements at some point. And doesn't feel good when you say it. It probably doesn't feel good. All of these statements are stories that perpetuate the current reality that you're living. And if you're listening to this, most of you have created a reality where you identify with the thing or the state that you don't want. And when you identify with something, that remains your experience of the world. And so it only makes sense that you have to change what you identify with. And once you do that, you will begin to change, right? It was really, really tough at first for me to stop saying I have depression or I'm depressed, because I realized I've been saying it for years. For years, since I was a kid, I've been saying it. And then to suddenly go and change it, at first, it was a little tough. But then I began to notice that as I stopped saying it less, I stopped thinking about it less, right? Because what you say is what you think about. What you think about is what you say. So if you identify with what you don't want, that is why you keep going through this cycle. Because whatever you identify with is going to stick with you. And that's just how it works. When you understand what isn't working, you can stop getting in your own way and be open to a new path to success. That's what I want for all of you. I want for you to understand what isn't working. And that's what this video just guided you through, just told you what is not working, so that you can stop doing these things that aren't working and be open to new ways to cure your depression, your anxiety, to be consistently confident and empowered and in love with yourself and believing in yourself. The final words I want to leave you with is to question everything, be a free thinker, and to find your tribe. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.